Well, hello, Professor. Our group focused on analyzing the Project Hugo case. After collaborative discussions, each team member took responsibilities for a different section of assignment. I was responsible for part one, where I examined how several enterprise environmental factors might impact the efforts of the Hugo project manager. He analyzed the project from six key perspectives. Well, this is the lesson I learned from this case. In Project Hugo, we learned that organizational change does not always begin with goals of cost reduction or operational efficiency. Instead, the transformation was driven by frequent clinical errors and the public outcry that followed extensive media coverage. This external pressure, not internal ambition, prompts the hospital to pursue a centralized solution. As engineering professionals, this reveals a bolder truth. Technical advancements are often responses to urgent, visible social problems, rather than outcomes of pure technological evolution. Therefore, we should not only focus on developing advanced systems, but also remain highly attentive to societal pain points, especially those that affect safety, trust, or public welfare. Starting with this human-centered problem allowed engineers to design more relevant and accepted innovations win broader support and ultimately drive meaningful societal progress. Shima?
Hello everyone. My name is Shima. I was responsible for working on the work breakdown structure. The thing that I have done in this part of the project was, first of all, was designing the complete work breakdown structure for the EHR implementation across the multiple healthcare facilities. I just decided to use the fundamental methodology to divide the project into structured phases. And also, during that process, I created clear hierarchical levels and work packages with distinct task names, descriptions, estimated cost, and task dependencies. And during this process, me and my teammates tried to have a back and forth meeting to each other, because I know that when you are working on the work breakdown structures, it's not just an individual work. Actually, you need to talk to the here in this project stakeholders who are on my teammates actually. So when we had those meetings with each other, we could find some gaps. We could find something which was really helpful to cover each and everything for the work breakdown structure, actually. And for the following steps, if I want to mention about the lessons that I have learned, I'm gonna say that those lessons, actually, I can mention some lessons, but at the end, I'm gonna say something about the most important one. So one of the most important one has been the detailed planning. I learned that investing time in breaking down the project into specific tasks at the beginning helps prevent confusion, missed steps, and inefficiency later. And the other thing that is really important in the project management, and especially in this part of the case, is teamwork and communication. If you have the process made it clear that successful project management depends on collaboration and ongoing communication, which I mentioned before. And also, I learned that seeing both the big picture and the details, actually developing the WBS, helped me understand the necessity of balancing and overall project vision with careful attention to small but critical tasks, actually. And at the final one, I should mention that I assume that I am an architect of this story that others must read, understand, and act upon it. So clarity is really important for when you are working on the WBS actually. So I'm going to pass it to my other teammates who has worked on the third part of the project.
Hi, my name is Deepa, and I worked on part three of the project, which included the network diagram for analysis. So we essentially used the network diagram to visualize the timeline of the original work breakdown structure that we created, and this included the durations and then the forward flow and backflow to figure out the slack and the late finish times. Overall, we found that the duration of the project is approximately 468 work days. And with PERT analysis, we were able to find that there's a 10.2% chance of actually completing the project 14 days ahead of schedule. So one major lesson that I learned from this project is the necessity for a balance between optimism and pessimism. So as a project manager, you want to be optimistic, you want to promote a positive work environment, encourage workers, and create an environment where workers are motivated to complete tasks on time. But also, there's a necessity for pessimism. You don't want to be too optimistic and then create unrealistic timelines. Instead, you want to do things like overbilling to make sure that there's the initial cash flow and there's extra money if there's any obstacles in the way. Or it includes accurately assessing risks and outcome and possible obstacles so that we create a more reasonable timeline that workers can follow, because creating an unreasonable timeline also means that these deadlines might not be met on time, and that would discourage the workers, creating this kind of negative spiral. So there's definitely a need for a balance between an optimistic and a pessimistic viewpoint. And I'll pass it on to Inayat for the next part.
Hello, Professor. Hope you're doing good. So this is Hari Sivakumar. I'm responsible for monitoring quarter 8 steps. So while working on the project Hugo, it was an ambitious digital transformation initiative aimed at replacing the paper-based patient records with a fully electronic system across the hospitals in my city, which is London. So from the very beginning, we knew the stakes were high, and this wasn't just an IT upgrade. It was a life-saving initiative focused on reducing the medical errors and improving the patient safety. So one of the biggest challenges we learned was the importance of stakeholder engagement. The physician, nurses, and allied health professionals all had different priorities, and many were initially resistant. Some physicians openly refused to use the system, being it as a clerical work. Overcoming that meant involving clinical voices early and often, especially through a clinical informatics team that helped translate between IT and frontline care. The leadership also played a crucial role. Johnson's vision and the persistence kept the project guideline grounded in its core mission, which is saving lives. The clarity helped the frame of the project Hugo, not as a tech project, but also as a safety project. The training and support were carefully timed and personalized. For instance, we offered just-in-time training and real-time support during rollout to reduce the anxiety. We also learned the value of incentives and peer champions in getting staff to participate. Finally, the project taught us that the cultural change moves slower than the technological change, but with the right strategy, strong communication, visible leadership, and a focus on purpose, even deeply embedded system can transform for the better change. Overall, the Project Hugo reminded us that real change in healthcare requires more than technology. It requires the empathy, patience, and human-centered leadership. So I now forward to my part 5 teammate who's responsible for part 5, Inayat.
Uh,
Thank you, Harish. My name is Anayat, and I work on the risk management section of the Project Hugo, Group 18. I identify the strategic and operational and technical and human-related risks that are risky for the Project Hugo, and using the SWOT analysis and the historical data that from the past failure data we had, and we use and prioritize by using the FEMA method and the top 10 risks, and assign the risk priority numbers and propose corrective action for each one. And I also perform qualitative evaluation using risk metrics, and recommended 20% contingency based on the standard of the Ontario for in the healthcare system. And and we can proceed with what we learned from this project. The first lesson was the technology doesn't guarantee success. In each technology, there was a risk coming up, and with the project Hugo, was the main risk was the clinician, the doctors found it was very difficult and clerical, and they didn't add the value. And it's a better reminder for the engineers, for the end user, don't feel or supported. Even the best system will fail. The second lesson would be the historical data, which is from the past data, the LHC and the CEDAR SENI, to identify high risk areas that are facing in the project, and build a representative strategic like continuous feedback loop and extended training. So as engineer, we shouldn't just innovate, we should study the past failure and identify the high risk areas. And the third is the proactive risk evaluation. Using FEMA, the qualitative risk matrix helped us to identify issue and early warning that we have to consider in the futures, which is in this the top three cases, which is score is more than 400. And based on that, we added the 20% contingency fund for the emergency aspects. And another was lesson was training checkbox. Like training is not just something we have to do once a lifetime. Its process is gonna be updated and more, and many risks tied to like early withdrawal of support, and corrective action is embedded super user and department and extend help desk beyond go live. So any new because doctor inflation will be changed in the future, so the training has to be updated as per the risk that is involved, and always the new training has to be involved. Overall, the project showed me how engineering risk is not about just numbers. It's about as a project manager, we have to align people and system together, and upfront thoughtful planning upfront protect not only budget but also patient outcome. Thank you so much.